Hey, this is Chris to Make Some Less Than Jake, and you're listening to Mark and Me.
Don't touch that dial!
Hello everyone and welcome to the Mark and Me podcast. As always, I'm your host Mark. Now you may have just seen that I've released 3 specials for the amazing Slam Dunk Festival. The first part only came out at the start of the week and include interviews with the absolutely awesome Movements, Less Than Jake and Paris. Following that, only 2 days later I was joined by Hawthorne Heights, Vukovi and Flogging Molly. And only yesterday, I gave you the third part of this special, which included Billy Talent, Kids in Glass Houses, and Underoath. A real big mix of bands, and honestly, some of the best interviews I've done, and I had such a blast doing them. But during my weekend at Slam Dunk, I was lucky enough to sit down and talk to Bowling for Soup. I was joined by both Rob and Jarrett from the band, and from the moment we started talking, something just clicked. Something's felt really special, and as a podcaster, when these moments happen, you just know. And sitting there with these two, talking about the love of film, music, and everything else, just felt so right. So much so, I want to dedicate this episode as a sole episode just to those guys. There's not 3 bands this time, they have their very own episode. That's how much I enjoyed it. Today's interview is quite short, but it's snappy and covers a lot of film talk. It reminds me of the old days when I used to do Skip to the End podcast. That's how good the chemistry is, and it already feels like I've known Jarrett and Rob all my life. And I can't wait to get them back on for more next year when they're touring the UK with Less Than Jake. So what I want to do now, instead of delaying things, is to get straight to this interview, because I love it that much. So here's me and Jarrett and Rob talking all things Bowling for Soup.
I'm here with Bowling for Soup at Slam Dunk. Both of you, thank you so much for coming on the Mark and Me podcast.
Good to be here. I'm Jarrett.
I'm Rob.
You didn't ask us to introduce ourselves, but we just thought it'd be a good idea.
I love it.
I'd like the Mac and Me logo on the microphone. I just
See,
noticed.
not everyone notices it straight away, but this
I
is
love
one of
that
the
movie.
best films ever.
I don't know about that. I just know it.
His brother's band, Don't Panic, has a Mac and Me t-shirt design.
Wow.
Which hopefully the makers of Mac and Me do not hear this.
First of all, I don't know who it is. And second of all, that movie's one long McDonald's ad.
It is, and I love it for it, and it doesn't even hold back. It's like, let's just do a dance scene in the middle of McDonald's.
Yeah, why not?
You know, I've never seen that movie.
I guess that makes sense, though. I feel like you would have been like, when it came out, you wouldn't have cared. Like, it was for kids when I was a little kid.
Imagine
Okay, that makes
E.T.,
sense.
but in McDonald's.
Yeah, it was basically, they were trying to pull off the success of E.T. and, like, make that whole thing, and I don't think it really hit the same success.
Speaking of E.T., did you know that in the book, it's not Reese's Pieces?
In the original screenplay, they wanted him to be M&M's, but the Mars company wouldn't allow it.
In the book, it is M&M's.
Wow.
Correct.
You heard that here first.
I think we're
Maybe.
like now doing like a Mac and Me, and we're plugging chocolate. So it's like,
Right.
I want some M&Ms. So if you're listening, M&Ms, send us a big fucking bucket of M&Ms.
Also, have you ever seen Elliot's screen test for E.T.?
Yes.
Yes, it's really good.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
It will crush your
He's
soul.
crying, and I'm like, what's happened to that kid to him to be able to act like this at such a young age?
Yeah, he's probably one of the best like child actors.
It was unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
And just his eyes, like you just want to hug him.
I know. I was watching it, and like that's why Spielberg instantly went, I want him.
That's the guy.
There's no one else.
There's no one else, yeah.
Should we just talk films? Because all I do is talk
Sure.
all day about
Yeah.
music. And I was thinking, I love films. So if we're talking Mac and Me, we're talking E.T., tell me what was the first film you remember as a kid that made you went, I fucking love cinema.
Oh, man. goodness gracious. So I'm a big movie kid. I grew up in the 80s when movies were everything in the world. I mean, I got to see Star Wars in the theater. I don't really remember it, but I know I did. But I'm actually going to stay on that train. I'm not even like a big Star Wars guy, but I got to skip school and wait in line to see Return of the Jedi in grade school.
I am so jealous.
And I will say it was a huge event in my life. And so I would say that probably like that movie became like the going to the movies thing for me.
Well, so 10 years after Jarrett did that, I did the same thing when they re-released Return of the Jedi in the movie theaters, the remastered one, and I skipped school and did the same exact thing.
Wow, that's
and
crazy.
how freaky is this? Right now, they've just released the 40th anniversary in the cinema. My friend did the poster for it. He was a fucking great British artist, but we're sitting here right now, and they're celebrating 40 years in the cinema.
Wow. Isn't that crazy?
We've brought it all back around. I like what we've done
Yeah,
here.
we did. Holy crap.
So I'm a bit, I'm 41, so my first cinema experience, we had this conversation on the way here today, which is freaking me out now. I got to see Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. My parents took me to see that. But I saw Back to the Future 2, right, at the cinema.
Mm-hmm.
And as it finished, they showed the trailer for the third one. Can you remember a time when you go to the cinema and they would go, well, if you enjoyed that, there's more coming soon. How cool is that?
Well, with that movie specifically, yeah, that's how at the end of Back to the Future 2 is the trailer for Back to the Future
How
3.
cool
but
is
it's
that?
the only movie that I've ever seen do that. I've never seen another movie do that.
Imagine
specifically.
now doing that, like going to the cinema and being like, I love Guardians of the Galaxy, and they're like, well, part 2, and here's the trailer.
Now they do though, right? I mean, that's the Marvel movies
I suppose
do
with
that.
Marvel, yeah.
All the
okay,
Marvel
that's
movies
a bad
do that.
example, yeah.
The Marvel movies, yeah, because they do the thing where during the credits they'll
Yeah,
like
that's
tease
fair,
something,
yeah.
but it's not like clips from the next
No.
movie. It's like something that'll lead into it. So yeah, it's kind of the same deal.
Well, actually, no, because after Spider-Man, they do the thing where he puts out on the screen who that Spider-Man is, Peter Parker, and that's the beginning of the next movie.
Right? Yeah, you're 100% right. I should know that. My kid's name is Peter Parker.
So here's the thing.
Wow,
this is
cool.
what's crazy that you bring and it really is. But what's so interesting about what you just said is it's the opposite. My son doesn't know that you're not supposed to sit there and watch the credits to see what is going to happen after now, because they're just so conditioned to it by the Marvel movies and all of that. So it's really weird. It's like that Back to the Future thing, I think, was the first one ever to do it. And somebody somewhere was just like, well, that's a smart thing.
Yeah, it was. I think it. But after that, it was stupid. Even before the big MCU thing happened, like when they were doing, Sony was doing theirs and Fox was doing their superhero movies. They were the ones that were doing those little teaser things during the credits, like even in like that stupid Fantastic Four movie. You know what I mean? Like back in '99 or whenever the hell that came out, or 2000 maybe. Yeah.
Speaking of Back to the Future 2, what a piece of shit that movie is.
Yeah, Jared goes off
Right,
on
let's
how
stop
much
recording
he doesn't
now,
like
and I'm going
Back to the
to
Future
fucking
2.
throw
I agree
this
with
table
him.
across the floor.
Back to the Future is one of the greatest movies of all time. Ever. And he presented a very solid case on why Back to the Future 2 is kind of shitty. And I get it. I really do. I get
I'll
it.
tell you why.
I was going to say, let's just do it now and like an arm wrestle.
I'm going
but
to tell
me
you why it's a piece of shit.
Wow.
Because they turned all the characters who already existed, these characters already exist in arguably the greatest motion picture of all time. There's an argument there. I'm not wrong, right? Back to the
You've
Future.
not seen Mac and Me, so yeah, that's fair.
Okay. They turn all these characters into cartoon characters, but they already existed. It's like when Joey wasn't dumb on Friends, you know? Or like...
That sudden switch.
Yeah, and it's like all of a sudden and now he's triggered by people calling him a chicken. What a silly, stupid thing. And they had to give him something, but the deal is that his character was so easygoing, and that was the whole thing, was he was just like,
Who else could deal with that situation other than Marty McFly?
I'm going to skateboard through everything, right? Yeah. Anyway, so with that in mind, that movie is a piece of shit.
I can't believe it, but you're kind of making sense, and I don't like this.
See?
Watch a man's heart break live.
Like
at
when
Slam
you're there,
Dunk.
and just even the mom now, like, because the mom was more of just this, like, sort of like drinking and like blah, 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 like losing, and then they just make her into this, well, you
I mean, he makes a point.
Go on then, I'm going to put you on the spot. What is your favorite movie of all time? It can't be Back to the Future because we talked about it. There must be something that you absolutely adore that is your kind of, you're about to die, it's the last film you watch.
Pulp Fiction.
Fucking
Easy.
perfection, the best script ever.
It's the
on
goddamn
paper.
best movie that's ever been made.
ever.
The Empire Strikes Back.
I mean, both are fucking
It's the
great
best movie.
films.
It's a perfect movie. The only thing, literally the only part of The Empire Strikes Back that falls a little bit flat is because they make you think a little too much when Luke goes into that little cave or whatever, and you don't know if it's Yoda doing that or if it's Luke or if it's the Force. Like, other than that, it's a perfect movie, and I do like that part. It's you interpret it your own way, but the movie's perfect.
The great thing about Pulp Fiction is I've probably seen that movie 200 times. I can actually sit and watch it, and I'll just say the whole movie along with it. But you and I could still have a conversation about that movie, and there'd be aspects of it that you could bring up, and I'd go, oh, right. And you could do the same thing. There's just so much content in that. And so, yeah, man, I used to – there was a time in my life where I would literally get back from a show, put that on, open a beer, and watch it till I fell asleep.
Incredible. Mine is Jaws. I think it's an absolute perfection masterpiece, but my most favorite film, I think that's the most crafted film. Like, Spielberg struggled, didn't he? On the production of that film is mental. Almost Famous, Cameron Crowe.
Great movie.
Look,
Yeah.
he wrote that on my arm. He wrote that on my arm.
That's a great movie.
Cameron Crowe. Like, if you're in a band or you wanted to be in a band and you watch that film, it's like, for me, it's like rock and roll heaven. It's just
Yeah. And it really is so true. It's like the relationships within the bands aren't always what you think.
yeah.
And how that it's so smartly done or whatever. And then just the fact that he doesn't know how old he is
I know.
at the beginning of the movie is so
Six?
funny.
6? Well, you're 7.
I've seen that movie a bunch, but it's been a really long time, so I'm
Yeah.
actually kind of a little fuzzy on it still, like the details and how I remember really liking it, but it's probably been 20-something years since I've seen it, you know.
Well, you know, it's got the one of the greatest scenes, two of the greatest scenes. I'm king of the world. Is that what
I'm
he's?
the golden god.
I'm the golden god, right?
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
unbelievable.
Titanic hit me.
Unbelievable.
But it's just when they're in the airplane and they think they're gonna die, and just like the guy just going, "I'm gay," and like they're just, and it's just so there's just so much substance to that
the
movie.
moment the plane then gets back, he's like, everything's okay. And the look
Right.
on, like, even Jason Lee's face, he's like,
Yeah.
what? Such a fucking great film.
So here's an answer to a question you didn't ask, but the movie I've seen the most times for sure is Wedding Crashers.
That's a great
interesting.
film. That's like
Yeah.
a hungover, I don't know what I want to watch. That'll do.
I honestly have had to have seen that movie, no joke, somewhere in the 500 range.
That's
A couple of
insane.
interesting comments about that movie. Bradley Cooper as a bad guy, kind of funny.
But that's the funny thing about that. So that's that's the second movie I ever saw him in. The first was one that was filmed in my hometown called Wet Hot American Summer.
Oh yeah.
And that was his first movie, I think.
I've never
So
seen that.
It's a ridiculous, but man, the cast: Paul Rudd, Bradley Cooper, Michael Ian, whatever,
Michael Ian Black.
and then the other Michael Showalter.
And then the guy from Law and Order.
Yeah, the guy from Law and Order, the guy from Frasier, Janine Garofalo. Like, it's got like this.
I'm like,
crazy-
sold.
Yeah, you should watch it. It's an interesting movie. It's ridiculous, but here's the other thing about Wedding Crashers. It's when the world became aware that Isla Fisher is literally the most beautiful thing on the planet.
Yeah. I did that when I watched The American Office, and I was like, who's that? Have you seen that?
No. My God, I need to see
It's
that.
unbelievable. Like,
I think Isla Fisher is literally, she hung the moon.
She's the redhead, right? And
Yeah.
she's actually
she's
my
married to
favorite
Borat in real life.
I
Like,
think my favorite performance of hers is when she was in the final season of Arrested Development and playing playing Ron Howard's daughter.
I've
See?
not even seen that.
See, we've all got things we need to catch up on now.
What's your most watched film of all time? Is it Pulp Fiction? It doesn't mean it's your favorite. Like, my most watched film ever is Tom Hanks's Big.
Yeah.
I just, for something like, I don't know why it's nostalgia, but I'm like, I want to watch that and feel good again. Like,
Actually, no. Mine's probably Dumb and Dumber,
Fucking
because
great.
or Anchorman, and here's why: because those were bus movies.
Yeah.
And a bus movie, it just gets put on at the end of the night, every single night, because we're familiar with it, and everybody sits in there, and you pay attention or you don't. And so either Anchorman or Dumb and Dumber for sure.
Okay, so actually, there's another contender for most watched movie for me, and it was back when I was in Patent Pending, before I was in Bowling for Soup, and it was our bus movie, where it was not even funny, but we would find funny things, and it was the movie Armageddon with Bruce Willis.
oh my lord.
And it's like
Ben
4
Affleck,
hours long,
yeah.
and we would just watch it and just pull all the little funny things out of it and constantly quote it, and no one knew what we were doing, and it was really funny.
But see, that's a long form comedy bit.
Right.
That's some Joe Ragasta patent pending shit right there. Like where you put on this non-funny movie just so that your guests in the bus are like, "What are y'all doing?" Well, why wouldn't we be doing this?
Armageddon, yeah, the end of the world movie.
Picking apart Armageddon. Don't wanna close my eyes. I don't wanna fall asleep. I just woke up.
And then literally straight afterwards, watch The Rock. Those two together, back to back.
The Rock with Nicolas Cage.
Yes.
And Sean Connery. Yeah.
Watch those
Alcatraz
together.
movie, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Watch
That is a
those two
pretty good
together. It's
movie.
like a weird back to back. It works.
Weird.
Well, because they're both part of that not like Michael Bay.
Exactly,
kind of
Bayhem,
thing,
yeah,
right? Yeah, like
it's-
that sort of movie, right? Where it's just big explosions.
Fucking crazy.
It's part of that world.
Beer,
and
pizza,
Con,
and those
Con
two.
Air is part of that too.
Con Air is
Yeah.
amazing. Like John Malkovich is a badass. I'm like, he
Oh,
really
man.
fucking does well.
Remember that movie Being John Malkovich,
was
man?
amazing as well.
What a crazy movie.
Fucking insane.
Yeah, insane.
I've got one last question, and this is going to be difficult, and it goes back to music, but every guest that comes on chooses the last piece of music that's played. Any band, any song, but what's a song when I ask you as a perfect outro piece of music that after today's interview you want to hear played?
I think you and I can agree on this. It's your favorite song by the band Ghost.
Oh my god! I was thinking that, and I was like, "There's no way you're gonna say it." The song "Spillways" by Ghost, I think, is the perfect song.
It's the perfect ending to this interview, too.
Do you know what?
Because I
Ghost-
feel like you got into the spillways of our movie soul today.
Yeah, it's good, and I'm now...
Spillways of your soul.
The spillways of your soul.
I'm going to play the whole thing as well. Normally I do like a 30-second snippet. I'm going to play the whole fucking thing to end this episode.
And trivia, that was mixed where our album Pop Drunk Snot Bread was recorded.
That's right.
A little plug there. Like, finally we're talking about your music. What
Yeah.
the hell? This is not what it's about.
Oh, we forgot to talk about Bowling for Soup.
Yeah.
Man, damn it.
Check it out right now.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Okay, find us online.
Yeah, go on
Google
Spotify.
Bowling for Soup.
Google Bowling for Soup and find out what we're up to.
And buy a vinyl. Stop streaming. Buy a fucking record. Thank you.
Yes, please. Actually, don't stop streaming and buy a
Yeah,
vinyl.
do both. And come and see you on tour every time.
Yeah, that's right. We'll be in the UK in February with Less Than Jake and the Vandaliers and
Wow, that's
Greatest
fucking
Hits
awesome.
record, our second Greatest Hits. Songs People Actually Liked Volume 2, the next 6 years, comes out in August.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to come to that show because I fucking interviewed them earlier on yesterday. They're fucking great.
You need to come interview us again. This has been a
I
blast.
want a longest, we'll do like an hour.
Let's do an hour.
Yeah.
I could easily do an hour of it.
100%.
In person in February or whenever you're here.
Yeah, well, if they tell you no, just say Jarrett said.
Mate, I will be like, do you know who I am? I'm the guy that talked about Mac and me. And they'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, come back on.
And the guy that was convinced that Back to the Future 2 isn't as great as he thought it was.
Yeah, I'm telling you, you're going to think about that. You're going to
And
be
I'm
like,
going to watch the film that you recommended that had the greatest cast of all time.
yeah,
I forgot the name, but I'll listen back later.
White Hot, Wet.
Wet Hot American Summer.
Right.
There's
I'm
a
gonna do it.
sequel to it that came out, and it's not quite as good.
It's like a Netflix series, kind of. Well, no, maybe it was a movie. Or it was a couple.
There's a series and a movie. Yeah.
I'm going to do it. Thank you so much. I'm getting flagged that you need
Thank
to go.
you.
But thank you for coming
All
on.
right.
And this is to be continued.
To be continued.
Like Back to the Future, we'll give you a quick preview. Part 3 is coming soon.
Oh, but here's the deal. It's going to be a real piece of shit, and we're going to all
Stay
turn into
tuned for that. It's
into
gonna be
character.
fucking
I'm going to
shit.
just talk like this. It's going to be great.
Stay
Just be
tuned.
excited about everything.
And I'm going to be a weird mom.
But don't you call me a chicken.
Fucking brilliant. Stay tuned.
So there it is. There's my interview with the amazing Bowling for Soup. I started the interview with full intention, like all the other interviews I did for Slam Dunk, just to talk about music, why they love the festival, and everything else. But something just changed. We started talking about films, and it just went from there. And it was the most natural, easiest interview I've ever done. And Jarrett and Rob are absolute legends. And I'm really, really excited already to get them back on Mark and Me and hopefully do like an hour next time face to face, because they're one of my favourite guests that I've had in over 5 years of podcasting. And you can hear just on that interview just how much fun we had. Jarrett has been amazing since and been liking lots of stuff on Instagram and even sent me a message saying how much he enjoyed the chat. So thank you so much for giving me your time, and I really can't wait to do more very, very soon. If you've enjoyed today's episode and you've listened to these specials, why not go on social media, either Facebook, Twitter or Instagram, and share this? It costs you absolutely nothing to do and can get Mark and me out there for a whole new audience by literally clicking a couple of buttons. On Facebook you can hit the share button, on Twitter you can hit retweet, and on Instagram you can even like it or even just put it as part of your stories. It really goes a long way and brings a whole new fan base to Mark and me that money can't buy. Also, if you've really enjoyed today's episode, there is a link on markandme.com to go to my Patreon page. On there, you can give me maybe just £2 a month and you're guaranteed 2 episodes every week. You get specials like this, you get a newsletter every month, you get a welcome pack which includes stickers, a badge and so much more. And also an exclusive episode each and every month called The Lost Tapes, which is one episode that the public don't get. You only get that if you support me via Patreon or via the subscription button on Apple Podcasts. I've had an absolute blast doing these 10 interviews over the last week for Slam Dunk, and I really can't wait to return again next year. I hope you've enjoyed it just as much as me, and I'll be back with my normal episodes in only a couple of days' time. We'll be going back to the normal different types of interviews from different types of people on the normal format. But these specials for me are very special indeed, and again, a massive thanks to Bowling for Soup for making it so much fun. So until I'm back in a couple of days' time, please take care, please look after yourself, listen to Bowling for Soup, buy yourself a ticket for them and Less Than Jake for the new year, and I'll speak to you all very soon.
Through benediction, you try to rid your mind of malediction, but through all this time you try to peel it off, and it's such a ride. Your desolation led you into this vile incarnation of consummated bliss. I know you need it now to make you feel alive. All your faith, all your rage, all your pain, it ain't over now. I ain't talking about forgiveness. All your faith, all your rage, all your pain, it ain't over now. It's the cruel beast that you feed. It's your burning, yearning need to breathe the spill away. You keep a casket buried deep within, you try to mask it, but fall back.